Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News website. I've got a new company to cover today because I'm very bullish on a certain region of the Battle Mountain Eureka trend, which is one of the most prolific trends in the world. There's some exciting stuff happening down towards the southern end of it. And I've got a new sponsor and a new company to talk about today. Timberline Resources is the new company, and Patrick Highsmith is the chap we'll be talking to today. Patrick, thank you very much for joining me.
Great to be here, Allan. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Well, as I said, Patrick, you know, the Battle Mountain Eureka trend is tremendously prolific. There's been some exciting stuff happening in your neighborhood of the Battle Mountain trend. Ruby Deeps of I-80 Gold has come up with some excellent results, thick intersections of high grade. To the south of them is Paycor. They're hitting some nice stuff. To the south of them is Golden Lake, and they're hitting nice stuff. And now you guys are to the south of that. And your recent results had my attention with what was it here? Let me pull it up. You had I'm having a little trouble. 9.9 meters of 17 grams, 5.4 meters of over 5 grams, or sorry, 51 grams. So really nice stuff. Let's talk about that to start, Patrick.
Absolutely, Allan. As you said, the Eureka district is, when we think it's on the cusp of exploding, quite frankly, and our friends up at I-80 Gold acquiring the Ruby Hill mine, which was mined by both Homestake and Barrick, was a big step for those guys. And of course, they're moving to production there with existing resources of over 7 million ounces, 1.5 million ounces of historic production, Allan. So it's a 10 million ounce district now. And that's kind of news, even to us Nevada explorers, not because we didn't know there was gold there, but because I-80 published a technical report that brought into the light of day the work that Homestake and Barrick had done at Ruby Deeps and other targets around there, not just the historic Archimedes open pits. So really great news, and we're frankly the largest tenement holder in the district, Allan. Almost 60% of the district is held by Timberline and our 72 square kilometer land package, or whatever it is. And we've been drilling some high grade as well, and in very similar rocks. And I think I can illustrate to you how it all fits together a little geologically.
Yeah, I saw some of that rock, and the mineralization at Ruby Deeps looks like the mineralization you're getting at your project.
That's right. We had a historic resource at an area called Lookout Mountain, which comes to surface, has some oxide, and that was published back in 2013, 500,000 ounces. But the grades there, Allan, were about 0.62 grams per ton, which might work in a heap leach operation if we were successful in proving up that material to be leachable. However, it was the high-grade roots there that got us excited, Allan. And in the last couple of years, that's where we've been drilling a little deeper off to the east of the existing resource. And as you said, we're drilling some of the same rocks. Exactly. The Cambrian-aged Dunderberg Shale hosts our high-grade mineralization in the new water well zone discovery. And as we've heard from I-80, the Dunderberg is an important host in Ruby Deeps. So
yeah, that area around there really excites me because you've got the resource, then you've got what looks like extension, and then right beside that, you've got this big geophysical anomaly.
Absolutely, absolutely. And maybe it's a good time to share a screen and show a couple of figures, Allan. What do you say?
Perfect, perfect.
Let's do that. I'll just bring up a slide here, and you can see that, I hope.
Yep.
And so now you can see here, what I'm going to show is, this is actually a geologic map greatly simplified. But here's what's cool about it, Allan. Up here to the north, a few kilometers north, is the Ruby Hill mine that I-80 acquired. And we've blocked out in red some of their resource areas there. So that's at the north end of the district. As you come south, there's the FAD Shaft, which is owned by Paycor. And our friends at Golden Lake are right on our property boundary here, right up into this area. And then this big block here is our Eureka project. We call this, Allan, we're trying to coin this term, the Eureka Gold Belt.
Okay.
Within the greater trend, this gold belt seems to be defined by this package of green rocks here, which are Ordovician and Cambrian aged, silty carbonates, limestones, dolomites, things like that. And down here's
Throughout that
here's what we're talking about.
Patrick, throughout that package of rock, there's been a lot of historical mining as well, using rudimentary mining methods. And that's often a good place to look for new mines.
Oh, absolutely. Of course, the Eureka district, historically known, sits mostly to the north here. Now, that was silver, lead, zinc, but quite high grade. And as you come south here, the Windfall mine on our claims was a historic heap leach producer. So that's oxidized mineralization in the mid to late 70s and early 80s. And
that's also historically significant, because if I read it right, that was one of the first heap leach operations in Nevada.
That's right. Very early days for heap leach there. There was also a little production here at Lookout Mountain that was trucked up there over the haul road that we still use to the Windfall operations. And there they were mining higher grade mineralization, Allan, over 4 grams per ton of oxide coming to surface there. So the area we were just talking about is our existing resource shown in red here, but right next to it is an area called the Waterwell Zone, right next to it. And across the valley, a kilometer away, the Oswego target, both of which have seen good drill results announced in the first 4 months of this year.
You know what sticks
out? Some of the high grade we've been talking about.
You know what sticks out to me like a sore thumb as I'm looking at this map is the faults. Up at Windfall, you've kind of got 2 trending faults. Then you come around the corner, and as it starts to go north and south, you've got faults meeting, faults crossing, and deposits right around all that.
Yeah, there's 3 trends coming through our property here that we've kind of roughly defined: the Windfall Trend, the Lookout Trend, and the Oswego Trend. And you got it, Allan. These blue lines are faults. And this whole corridor is quite shattered. And as we drill this rock, we see it's quite shattered and broken up. But those faults, of course, that's important for plumbing of these systems. So you're going to see a prevailing north-northwest that kind of runs up here, as you can see, up into the I-80 corridor. The FAD shaft sits near some of those. Okay. And then the cross faults are also important. Those may be the controlling structures for the gold. That may be what explains the high grade. And as we zoom into these districts, we've been tearing these things apart with respect to those structures. And that's a big, important part of it. And you can kind of see that in a cross section here. This is a cross section through that historic resource. And
for our non-geologists out there watching the show, as Patrick mentioned, these faults are cracks in the earth that work as the plumbing for the fluids carrying gold and other metals up towards the surface. So this is what you want to see to have a plumbing system in the right packages of rock.
Yeah, absolutely. And having the right rocks too, Allan, are important. Are these rocks potential host rocks for Carlin type? And that geophysical anomaly you mentioned, Allan, this slide shows that. This is that IP anomaly sitting in the valley out here to the east of where we've been drilling at the Waterwell Zone and the Lookout resource. And then across the valley at Oswego, where we've had high-grade gold at surface, sitting on the other side, here's this big geophysical anomaly. And here's these structures cutting through it. So kind of gives you that symmetry, Allan, of this valley with big cracks in the rock, the faults there. And in the middle of it, this IP chargeability anomaly telling us there's probably some pyrite down there. There's some graphite down there. And those things are both ingredients that go with Carlin type gold mineralization. So this is the corridor where we'll be doing most of our drilling this year, up and down here based on the high grade discovery at the Waterwell Zone. And this table just recaps a couple of those intercepts you're trying to remember earlier that got us so excited earlier in the year.
41 meters, 5 grams, 20 meters, 9 grams, 44 meters of 4 grams, 15 meters of 10 grams. And look at that rock in the core. That looks exactly like what Ruby Deeps looks like.
Yeah, the mineral that jumps out at us that we get excited about is that red stuff there. That's called realgar. and the yellow mineral is orpiment. Those are both arsenic minerals that have been reported by I-80 Gold up north of us, and we see them. And as you can see here, these are narrow intercepts, but 86 grams per ton, 123 grams per ton over narrow widths. But making up what we believe, Allan, this type of drill hole, 41 meters of 5 grams or 44 meters of 4 grams from only 140 meters below surface in this case, probably economic anywhere in the world. And so very exciting. And these are what's driving the new exploration that Timberline is doing around the water well zone.
And do you think that there's a possibility that you're like right on top of a system that's driving this mineralization?
Yeah, let me show you one other cross section. So again, for the audience, this is a vertical slice through the earth. And we're looking at one of those really good holes here, the 44 meters of 4 grams, okay? And there's one of these big faults, Allan, and here is the shape of that IP anomaly I've already shown you down there.
It looks like a bell to me, and you guys are going to ring that bell.
You're going to ring that bell. I love that. I'm going to steal that from you, Allan.
Okay.
So, this core hole here went down into the valley to test that anomaly. And what we hit that was most interesting, actually, was a long interval, over 200 meters of pretty decent silver grades, over 5 grams, including 57 meters of almost 10 grams. But notice there's also low-grade gold intercepts associated with that. So as you say, over here sits our Oswego occurrence with some high-grade gold on this other fault, okay? And here sits the intercept we've already announced earlier this year. And so, yeah, it feels as if this is the roots to the system, Allan, but we don't have to drill that deep. This hole, by the way, was what, a little over 350 meters deep or something. So this isn't super deep at all. But here we hit the top of the system at 140 meters below surface. Notice this red hatchering, Allan. We're just saying this is the area we're going to be testing. We're going to drill off to the east here. We're going to look for this fault zone to see if that fault zone has high grade on it. We're going to go across the valley here. These rocks, Allan, this is the Ordovician age 9 Mile and Goodwin formations. And these are the most important hosts up at Ruby Hill, Archimedes, where I-80 is working. And these rocks don't even come to the surface here. So we've got high grade known over there.
A few things shot out to me on this particular slide when I looked at it in your PowerPoint presentation. One is that big anomaly, but where it creates the bottom of a bell is where you have the intersection of 2 veins, and you've got 2 veins that are coming like this towards that other vein, where it's all widening at the bottom.
That's right. Yeah, these faults are important fluid pathways. We know this one is because we have the resource sitting on it here. We know this contact is very important, but where it hits these faults, and as these things, as you say, propagate to depth here, where they intersect the rock is completely shattered. And what we'll be looking for down there is the most favorable host rocks. The Dunderberg formation here exists near surface, but it also exists deeper down here. The Goodwin and the 9 Mile, they don't even come to surface, Allan, and they've never been drilled here before. So we're going to have to drill test this very favorable host rock against this fault. And these things are like a flower structure we talk about in epithermal gold systems, where the veins sort of come up to the surface and branch out. Well, that's kind of what we have as a microcosm of this part of the Eureka district as well. And this structural corridor, just as we go north, we'll see it coming to surface and going under some younger rocks and then showing up again up in the I-80 part of the district. So this structural corridor is key.
The second thing that stood out to me was your 22C hits are right at the contact of 2 important rock packages.
That's correct. That's correct. And this formation, the Dunderberg Shale and the underlying Hamburg Dolomite, is prolifically and consistently mineralized, Allan. A Golden Lake hit at this same contact miles from here. Okay. Our Windfall, that historic mine that we mentioned just south of the Golden Lake projects, again, that was the same contact. So this took a little while to figure out why is the high grade right at the base of that unit. But that's what's changed in the last 2 years, Allan, I would say, as we got in. put some new investors into the company, got the team sort of reinvigorated, is we've really figured out the controls on that high grade. And we know now everywhere we see the base of the Dunderberg. I mean, just look at this section. This is a north.
Yeah. We talked before we did this interview a week or so ago. We really had a good talk about this because this really opened my eyes. Look at the contact and the high grade mineralization that follows that contact. When you get to the northeast section, you had a tremendously good distribution of gold right at the contact.
Exactly. Yeah. This is a long section. So this goes from northeast to southwest. And as you say, Allan, it's the Dunderberg Shale. Look at the scale bar here. This thing is well over a kilometer. Every single drill hole, some of these go back 20 years. Every single drill hole that hits the base of the Dunderberg hits some gold. Sometimes, like in these recent results, you can see from the histograms, quite high grade, great mineralization there, medium grade sort of through here. And then down in here, there's always gold there, over a kilometer. That's amazing in a gold system. And higher up in the section in the Dunderberg, there's also some high-grade hits. So this formation is an important source of the gold mineralization at Lookout Mountain. And this portion of it is what's new. This is the water well zone. And I just highlighted here, Allan, here's two holes, 32 meters of 1.7 at that contact, 19.8 meters of 1.4 at that contact. What's significant, Allan, is those are RC holes drilled below the water table. And we've seen in this district that when you're drilling with RC, all those little cuttings in an area of high groundwater inflow, you can wash some fine material out of the samples, which could downgrade the grade. So we're going to put
our non-geologist viewers, what RC does is it breaks the rock up into little pieces. And if you have high grade or fine gold in there, sometimes that can be washed away and it underreports the actual grade. Now, I think you had done some twinned holes that kind of confirm that possibly might be happening.
That's right. That's exactly what happened right up here, Allan. There was hole 205 and 220. 205 was an RC hole. It averaged 36.6 meters of 1.1 grams, whereas when we re-drilled it with this core hole, less than 2 meters away, we got 44 meters of over 4 grams per ton.
Wow.
So same interval right next to each other. And given all the water inflow there and the fact that the gold is hosted very often in very fine-grained pyrite that might wash out of that sample, we believe that could be very significant. And therefore, we're going to demonstrate that further by twinning these two holes with core to get better geologic information and better sampling information through that key contact. So those holes are underway right now, Allan. We have a drill in the field right now, and you'll be moving onto one of these pads here right away.
Well, if you could confirm that again, you would probably have the reason to go back and twin some of those historic holes to the southwest, but it looks like to the northeast is where you want to be going to keep following that contact.
Yeah. Let me just show you in this map view a little bit clearer illustration of that. So there's the hole we were just talking about, the northern end here where we hit the 44 meters of over 4. At the southern end, 212C is the one that hit 41 meters of 5, Allan. So this is, again, the resources to the west over here. And it's lower grade in this area, but the water well zone is quite high grade. And notice how wide open it is in this whole corridor over here. So this is where a lot of the drilling right now, starting this summer, will be to follow up on this intercept on the south end, to fill in a little bit in between, and then 400 meters between these two high-grade intercepts, definitely to follow up in this northern area, as you pointed out. So there's room here to the north, Allan, and to the south. There's a little bit of room to connect it up to the historic resource. And then as we go out in the valley, here's that big geophysical anomaly we were talking about with the silver hits in it there that we talked about earlier.
Well, I hope our audience can see the fault controls of the high grade. You're looking at you can see it on your Lookout Mountain. If you look at where you've got the highest grades on the south end there, look at all those big spikes in the grade.
Right. That's right. There's definitely a lot of fault control. You see this northwesterly fault here. Now, this is kind of a 3D view, Allan, so it's a little bit tougher for people who aren't used to looking at things this way. But this northwesterly fault in this valley right here, it's kind of parallel to the northwesterly trend right here. Okay, so there may be, that's what led to the water well zone discovery, is we were chasing these out to the southeast here, and we hit a few holes, and we've since improved upon it, as you can see with these red discs, which indicate higher grade gold intercepts. A small disc is 3 grams per ton, and a large disc is 10 grams per ton. So that's what led to this water well zone discovery, and you're quite right. Just east of that is a big fault here, which may be related to that high grade. And then out through this IP anomaly, you can continue to see these blue lines indicating faults. And frankly, that's why we got a PhD structural geologist out here, Allan. There is a lot of broken up rock to be mapped and figured out, and a lot more drilling to do. But each time we get near one of these big faults, like here at Oswego, where we just announced a nice intercept.
Look at all your spikes right at the fault.
Pretty much right on the fault. And you can see it here in this plan view of Oswego. There's the fault, Allan. This is the surface sampling here. And over this stretch, 26 meters of 14.4 grams, including 7 meters of over 20 grams. And then down here, 27 meters of 12 grams. This is at surface along a fault. And now we finally, after 30 years, brought a drill rig back here. And our first holes in that area returned a really nice intercept, 35 meters of 2.3 underneath that. So this is another target called Oswego, which we'll be moving the drill to in just a couple of weeks. Now, follow up on those results.
I was looking at another map, and if you look at those channel samples where you've got the purple, is there a cross-cutting fault there?
We have mapped, you're right, one of our earlier maps, and we're still mapping out here, but we do project a possible northeaster. You see these holes up here? They sort of missed. They got anomalous gold, Allan, but they didn't hit the ore grade. So we know a structure continues in that direction, but it may well be that the main feature is this more northeasterly.
Right,
so exactly
and where they come to the fork in the road is where you're getting your big trenching results.
That's right. That's right. It's complicated, Allan, because this formation, the El Dorado dolomite, is not the best host for Carlin-type mineralization. So it may be that it's narrow up in here or not of economic width. But what's key is this fault, down dip, hits the Goodwin 9 Mile, which is, again, our host up at I-80's project. So there's just so many targets here, Allan. We're really trying to focus.
That's something that really blew me away when I really dug into your corporate presentation, is you just guys are chock-a-block full of targets.
That's right. That's right. And we had a substantial raise earlier this year, almost 5 million US we put into the treasury. And the lion's share of that was from a group called the Jupiter Gold and Silver Fund out of Ireland and the UK. And they're a core investor now, 9.9% of the company. And that investment has funded what will be our biggest drill program, probably in Timberline's history this year, about 7,000 meters or 22,000 feet. A lot of that will be core over in the water well zone. So that's a little more expensive to drill. But, over there, we got the tiger by the tail there. We're kind of onto a discovery there, and we need those core holes. We're here at Oswego. We'll do some more RC, of course, but probably a couple of core holes as well. So there are a lot of targets. It's a big company size project, Allan, over 70 square kilometers, as I said.
So let's talk, now that we've kind of set the stage, what is the plans? Like, what's your priority for the drilling money you're going to spend this year?
Yeah, let me bring up a bit of a more general map here. And this shows you the Lookout Mountain resource area, that open pit I told you about, those high-grade intercepts. And then this is the water well zone, the Hatchard area. So I can just made it real obvious with these red arrows. These are the areas where high-grade mineralization is open to the north, open to the northwest here. Notice some high-grade intercepts up here, a kilometer away or so at our Rocky Canyon target. Then down in here, another high-grade intercept here, open to the east. That one I mentioned, open to the south. And then a kilometer away, here sits that Oswego target we were just looking at. So if I consider our budget for this year, Allan, I would say it breaks down close to this. About 60% of that emphasis is going to be along the water well zone. We'll do some fill in. As I said, we're going to twin a couple of these lower grade intercepts with Corp, but we're going to infill. We're going to step out around the northern high grade intercept and the southern high grade intercept. This is open for over 1.5 kilometers to the south.
Wow.
So super excited to step out and follow. The resource continues to the south. No reason to believe that there's not a lot of potential headed down this area, and we will be putting some holes in there. So about 60% will be emphasized here. Some of the team is really excited to get back into the heart of that IP anomaly. Maybe we'll have one more deep hole out here or something. And then across the valley, I would say about 20% of our drilling will be at the Oswego target to figure out the controls on that surface mineralization we mentioned and the first round of drilling there. And then probably about 20% of it will be up to the northeast that we've been talking about, that windfall trend up in here, which is southeast of the Golden Lake drilling that we've heard about.
Before we go up there, I want to tell people I'm super excited about following that north and south of those big hits in that contact between the important rocks. I'm very excited to see that IP anomaly. I think you're going to find the plumbing system to this whole mineralized area, and that Oswego fault controlled looks very exciting, because it's not like you guys went in there and did some rocks, some chip samples where you look for a good looking rock and you bang it off. You did channel samples there. So that's a very controlled way of finding realistic surface sampling. So this whole map is very exciting to me, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you. I agree, Allan. And note the scale bar here, that's 0.5 kilometer. So, you're sitting over here where you have a resource and high grade right next to it. You jump 1 kilometer across the valley and you got oxide, high grade at surface, big fault, as you say, IP anomaly sits in between. So I agree, this alone would be a robust project for most junior companies, Allan. And of course, we go, 8 kilometers north of here and 4 kilometers south of here, and you're still on the project. So it's a sizable area and a lot of work to do, and just nice to really be hitting some consistent hits as we did in the first quarter, even in these doldrums of this market.
Well, and also you're figuring out the fault, the stratigraphic story. You're really improving your predictability to get good results with your drilling. Before we leave this, before we finish, I'd like to talk about that target you have to the north. Can you bring something up for that as well?
Yeah, let's jump up to the northeast to the Windfall target. This is it here. And to get people oriented, the northern end of our property is just up in here, and Golden Lake has been drilling on a little pit across here, another historic pit called the Hamburg Pit. So to get people oriented, this is the northeast part of our property position. This is a beautiful haul road that came in from the historic heap leach operation here. 3 open pits are outlined in red here. And then this road continues on down to Lookout Mountain, where we just were a few kilometers away. So this is the historic Windfall mine. 115,000 ounces were produced here, more or less. Allan, we've broken it out. You can see about 32,000 ounces from the Windfall pit, about 50,000 ounces from the Rustler pit. And we've been in here before. Back in 2018, we drilled some attractive holes, 24 meters of 3 grams between these pits, 27 meters of 2.2 grams between these pits, some other low grade and medium grade intercepts. There's also high grade coming to surface in these pits. Here you can see a cross-sectional view. There's our familiar rocks again, Dunderberg Shale, Hamburg Dolomite, right at the contact. That's where one of those good intercepts was. But even in the surface sampling we did in the pits here, you can see an example of here. We took 40 samples in that area. The highest we got was 13 grams of oxide in the pit, but quite a number of samples above 1 gram, above 3 grams within the surface sampling there. Remember the story, Allan, you know it as well as I do. In the 80s and 90s in Nevada, the key was drill shallow for oxide. So what you'll do is you'll find a project like this, which had hundreds of drill holes from the 80s on it, some of which are shown here. And they might have drilled to 100 meters. And if they didn't hit high-grade oxide, they just moved on because the technology wasn't such that you could make money off of these deeper intercepts of 3 or 5 grams. Or, of course, today we're hitting some nice 10-gram intercepts and better. But those are deeper. And that's common in mining in Nevada today. A lot of the big discoveries like Gold Rush and 4 Mile by Barrick and Newmont up at the Cortez complex, or of course, Ruby Deeps that I-80 has, are coming from deeper, but the grade is robust enough that these have a great chance of still being mined. And so this is just the tip of the iceberg here.
You know, you're bringing up a subject that I talked to you and Downey about, which kind of was the rationalization behind them buying their mining infrastructure, was that there's a lot of projects that are now transitioning out of that oxides in Nevada to the deeper refractory material below that. And, you know, that's a very exciting transition for I-80 because they've got capacity to look for more of this stuff.
That's right. They acquired the Lone Tree mine in that transaction, which has a refractory processing circuit already in the company. So, and of course, Newmont and Barrick, formerly now Nevada Gold Mines, have multiple refractory processing centers. And we don't take that lightly, Allan. You've got to have grade if you're going to drill refractory mineralization, but we're drilling grade. We're drilling 200 gram meter intercepts here. And that gives you a chance. If you're going to drill high grade refractory, well, first, Allan, if you're going to drill refractory, drill high grade. And if you're going to drill high grade refractory, drill it in Nevada. And that's what we're doing.
Yes. So, wow. You have a riches of targets there, Timberline, on your massive project, Patrick. I'm glad you took the time to tell our audience about it. And I think you've made a very compelling story, especially for a company with a $31 million valuation.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Great to meet your followers and look forward to lots of future chats, Allan, as we go forward. It will be a busy summer, as I said. The drills are already in the field. We have 2 drills on site right now, 1 reverse circulation rig and 1 core rig. So drilling has already started, and we look forward to a rich news flow starting in sort of late summer and going through the sort of prime season for getting out and meeting folks at conferences and such starting in September. So
is there any thing holding you back from going well beyond the program you have? Like, is the seasonality any issue there? Can you keep drilling year round?
Yeah, great point. We're in Nevada, which is sort of a year-round part of the world for the most part. I'd say 2 key things there. One, we drilled till mid-January this past year. And so we were able to push a little bit of snow. That haul road that was built in the 1980s that we didn't have to pay for, Allan, was blasted through the mountain. It's double width rock base. We could push snow on it if we needed to and work all seasons. So that's a great bonus. Of course, we are literally, sort of just a few kilometers out of the town of Eureka. So we're quite close into town anyway. So it depends on scale and budget, Allan. If we make a sort of urgent discovery that sort of amps up the imperative nature of keeping a drill turning all winter, we can absolutely do it. In general, we manage our costs and we drill during the optimum spring to fall season, and then we crunch data through the winter. It just so happened this year, because we couldn't get a rig back in there till October last season, that we had to drill into January to get our program done. But it went off without a hitch. Our vice president, Steve Osterberg, is from Wisconsin, so he's not scared of a little bit of snow. So yeah, we can work year round, and it just sort of depends on the cycle of the project. And frankly, we expect to generate a much higher hit rate this year, because as you said, we're a little more predictive with where we're going to find this mineralization now. And if that leads to the sort of excitement we hope it will, I'm confident you might see a drill turning through next winter, or more than one.
Well, I asked that question for a specific reason, Patrick. It looks to me like with the what you've learned over time, that you are now in a position where I think you're going to make some very big discoveries, and the kind of discoveries that are going to want you drilling as till the cows come home, as they say.
Well, from your lips to God's ears, Allan, I hope that's exactly what we do. We've obviously had the best drill results that Timberline has announced in quite a long time in its history on the Eureka project. And I encourage people to stay tuned and reach out to us with any questions or seeking more information. We'll be making the rounds at the conferences and keeping the news flow up to keep people informed. And like I said, I think we've got the tiger by the tail, and it's so exciting to see the whole district active with I-80 in the north and Paycor and Golden Lake and Timberline as well. That's the kind of thing that leads to one of these Nevada districts really breaking out. And I think there's a lot of potential for that.
I love that because I got 4 companies I'm following closely there. You're all kind of intertwined. So I kind of speak about all of them when I'm talking to one of you. And I really am sinking my teeth into this area. It has some tremendous signs that big things are going to happen for this area. And, you know, in compliment to your efforts to get out there and shake hands with people, these online interviews are a great way to get out there to a big audience as well. So I'm looking forward to a lot more interviews with you, Patrick, based on good drilling results.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to lots of interviews based on my hope for the same thing, Allan. So I hope to see you a lot this summer.
Awesome. I'm going to close it off and we'll have a chat at the other end, Patrick.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. So there you go, folks. Here's a company that has a modest valuation. They've shown good things with the drilling. They're in a specific region, as they're trying to coin the Eureka Trend. But the Eureka Trend is part of the Battle Mountain Eureka Trend, which is a tremendously prolific region in Nevada. So, you know, they're in I'm going to steal from his own presentation, Land of Giants. And it looks like this specific area or Eureka Trend area is about to catch a lot of investor attention. I'm very glad to have 4 companies that I'm following closely as their sponsors, including Timberline. And I'm going to be doing a lot of talking about this area because I can see big things coming from all 4 companies. Timberline is going to be one of those success stories of the future. And, you know, if they have success, 150 million to a 500 million valuation is well within the potential in the cards. They currently have a $31 million valuation. So I think they're real cheap. I think they're a company for you to do your homework on. As always, speak with your financial advisors before making any investment decisions and do that homework. Go check out their news releases. Go check out their presentation. There's a lot of really good stuff in that presentation. So on that note, stay tuned for more interviews with Timberline and have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.